delegating our responsibilities to our rate holders.
Well, again, it's to fulfill the emergency agreement.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll bring it back at a next item, if that's the pleasure of the board, at the next meeting, as a regular scheduled item.
Oh, you have
asking
one.
for.
Yeah, no, I understand. I'm looking around to see if we have consensus on bringing it back for that discussion. Do you have other items that you want to discuss right now, or shall we go to public comment?
Yeah, in regard to that, especially because of the fact that we're dealing with the emergency preparedness, do we want to form an ad hoc committee to not only talk with the CCWD, but also North Coast County Water District in terms of also emergency water supply?
So my thought on that,
Oh, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
it would be, why don't we let why don't you and your cohort come together with what you, take that in consideration in the plan and then bring it back to us on the pros and cons of 2 versus 3 agencies on that very issue.
So you're saying we should essentially consider this in the preliminary engineering study?
See if it makes sense to do all three. There are certain aspects that, like we know in an emergency, we're not rolling out a hose between us and Pacifica. That kind of thing would be trucking. But those kind of go to mutual aid agreements more than engineering specifics. And that's been done. We've had trucks in the past during the big drought back in the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s.
Mid-80s.
Okay. You see my early 90s and raised me with mid-80s.
Water, yeah.
So that kind of thing's been done where we've done the trucking, but yeah, it's a good thought. Let's go to public comment. Sid?
Sorry. Creek. Wasn't really sure because you didn't state what the purpose of this joint committee is. Is it strictly to figure out an emergency thing?
The purpose of the committee initially, what really was, as Bob might be able to help us with, was to talk about cooperation.
Yes.
Okay.
But it's actually taken multiple forms, and one of the things that Bill mentioned was managing the resources that we both draw from, especially in the Denniston Basin. We have, in the past, met with CCWD on the question of doing a groundwater management plan. So this is all part of a long history of coming together at various times for very similar purposes along that path.
Sounds reasonable. About all the questions that you asked of the other water district about the big wave issues, the pumps and stuff, hoses and storage, and the, let's see, what else were you asking? Some of the, shared resources. What were their responses? Because you didn't mention any of that. Is that going to be in a separate report, or are you going to talk about it at this meeting?
Let me just throw in that Dave Dixon and Ken Coverdale said that they at this point have no plans or intention of serving Big Wave. They initially thought about it for a short time, but they don't have any plans. They're happy to allow our district to handle Big Wave.
And we have enough water for that, right?
Yes.
And they indicated actually that it wasn't in their territory, but they did respond to the fact that the developers at Big Wave had made a request to them.
Yeah.
And so that's, but they said that they had no real interest in supplying water because it wasn't in their district.
And that was before we lifted our moratorium, so they were the only possible water supplier unless they were going to use their ag well that they had talked about.
We actually took an action to indicate that we would be willing and able to serve them.
Since we lifted it.
No.
Oh, even before?
Yes.
Okay.
We passed a resolution.
I did not know that.
Sent
It
them
must
a
have been a
letter.
meeting I missed.
We sent them a letter as well, so
Okay.
there was no lack of opportunity to understand
Wow.
the situation.
That's good. So this doesn't really have anything to do with LAFCO and merging the two districts, right?
Mm-mm.
No,
Good,
no.
because I would be very opposed to that, considering that as a ratepayer, we've been paying on our property taxes for
I heard that, Bob.
quite some time. I guess it's like $19 million was the bond, and it's not even paid off yet. So I wouldn't want to see any merging going on until they decided how they would compensate property owners in this district. So that would be a good question if that's part of your cooperation discussion.
Thank you, Sid.
So, Bill Kehoe. Thank you, Sid.
Okay.
Okay, Bill Keogh, Morris Beach. When I saw this on the agenda, first off, I actually asked for documentation because it wasn't in the packet. And I'm going to formally ask the board now that when future meetings take place, that there is a published agenda for the meeting, that minutes are taken, and that they are shared with the public. And I would also like to know how, and no offense to Bob, that there were members of the public there, and I have spoke before this board many times and requested on various different committees that I would like to know about them and attend them to see what's going on. I was not notified about this. So I take quite a lot of umbrage with this whole report. Now I'm going to follow up on what Sid did, because while Bill gave a longer list of topics touched, he did not go into detail of the explanation of each. So I would like to know, what did Ken Cloverdale actually mean by better relations, working on something concrete? Did he give examples? Did he say what he means by that and what he wants? That's my first question. Can I get an answer?
He didn't really give it a concrete. You mean by concrete or?
Well, he said he wanted to work on something more concrete. I mean, not ethereal, like someday the sun will shine, but specific projects,
So,
not
but-
pouring,
so you're
not pouring
asking,
concrete. That was
it an abstract comment?
that was his
Okay.
term. I'm just saying, I need some detail on that.
Yeah.
Bill, why don't you answer that? I don't
So
remember.
that he brought that up and we talked about it, and from that it started to distill down what could we work on that would be concrete, and that's where this whole idea of having this engineering study to augment that emergency water supply was sort of the result of that.
Can I ask
discussion.
who put that idea forward?
Ken Coverdale, didn't
That's us, clear.
Ken Coverdale introduced this. You know something? I'll tell you exactly what he said. He was sitting right where Dave is, and he did not mention the possible ways of. He did not specify the possible ways of sharing water, or transporting water back and forth. He was very careful about that. He just said that we should look into the ways that it can be done.
Right.
And so he was very specific about that.
Now, in the past, he's
He
been
didn't
very
say-
specific about a hardline connection.
No, he actually didn't even mention a hard line connection. He just mentioned
But in the
that they're
past.
possible in the past. I know, but he
Well,
mentioned possible ways.
And that was, I think that the idea was not to preordain a solution, but to have a study so that you do come up with what are viable solutions to this.
Yeah, but he didn't spell them out. He didn't make a list of the
Yeah.
solutions.
Okay.
So he said to fulfill the emergency connection agreement, we should look at the ways it can be done. So you know something, that's exactly what he said. And then the recycling water. I talked about that, and I said that I gave a little bit of history on the recycling water and addressing that to Dave Dixon, and said that the SAM board is going to be looking at recycling water again, and we'd work with SAM would work with CCWD and through this district. So we're going to be addressing that again soon, and that's a coast-side-wide issue at this point. So, and then the desalinization, Bob talked about that
Well,
we should.
what happened is,
You're looking at a piece of paper.
They
Yeah.
haven't distributed it.
I'm looking at a piece of paper.
As far as I know, these are their notes.
Yeah.
Well, and that goes back to my original comment. If you are having district meetings that affect the district and the ratepayers, is it too much to ask for the board to have a published agenda and then publish meetings coming back from that, especially on a sensitive topic to many of the ratepayers here who are concerned, as Sid pointed out, that we have invested years of money into building this system, and as a shareholder, not just a ratepayer of this district, I would certainly want to make sure that my investment is protected. And I'm sure there's plenty of others.
So let me ask you a question to Clemens. Clemens, if I recall correctly, this is an ad hoc committee.
Correct.
So let me just state first that ad hoc committees are not required to have their meetings open to the public.
I understand that.
Hang on. Going somewhere with this.
Okay.
Given the nature of this, I'm interested to have some initial meetings and see where it goes, but it looks to me like it's potentially moving into the realm of a standing committee. Standing committees are required to agendize, host, and provide for public comment
Exactly.
as well as minutes. So what I'm going to suggest to our committee members is that we consider acting in that way, because we're always free to do that. A standing committee would be a requirement. If the committee is interested in pursuing that, I'm perfectly willing to not actually formally change it to a standing committee. If the committee is not interested in that, I will say now that I would intend to change it to one. So
I'd go with making it a standing committee.
well, I'd like to see. One of the reasons I'm slow on that is because I'd like to see where the first few meetings go and whether or not this is something we actually want as a standing committee.
But this is not the first few meetings, but
Well,
how many meetings have there been, Bob?
In the current configuration, let's see where it goes. And we're having meetings. We're having pretty broad-ranging discussions. I do want to remind the committee that I think it's fine to explore areas of interest, but I'm glad you're bringing them back to the board, because we don't want you pursuing areas of interest without the board's the board being interested in where you're going with it.
Well,
Yeah,
let me just take a different perspective. I agree with the suggestion you're having, but I think we should complement the two groups for getting together and looking at shared issues. I absolutely see no harm in any of this, and furthermore, I think this group has been very judicious about bringing it back.
Mhm.
I think this group has been very forthcoming in their report, and I think they've actually done more communication on this process than you expect on a first-time meeting. So let's look at the positive, which is they got together for common interests. They came back with a concrete step on one issue that seems reasonable. I think the idea that you brought up, that at some point it could be a standing committee, let's let this group mature a little bit. We're going to have a report back from Clemens about one step that will be taken, and let's follow the process. And all the reports coming back to this group. And I think that's
so.
right.
Let me mention. We're on the same page on this, but let me mention too. This is by no means the first meeting. This is probably the 100th meeting, and people in this room have been the people who've been doing those meetings. So I'm glad we have more people. I'm glad we have.
With the exception of me, I have not been in.
No, my statement is still correct. The people who have been the people in those meetings, most of them are in the room, with the exception of Paul, who has passed on. But we have had probably about 100 of these meetings. So, not to diminish your point at all. And we now have it's newly constituted. That's good. I mean, it's newly constituted on their end as well. But I will share some concern that I'm glad you're bringing things back. It's quite a lot of material, minutes or notes that were distributed to the board and the public would have been helpful for this. And I'm glad you're bringing it back. So I think we're all asking for, all right, let's jump in both feet and let's treat this in the way that we say it should be treated. So more information written, distributed, and preferably in the packet if we can get it. And if we have minutes from that meeting, then that's the easy thing to put in the packet.
But Bill, going into that meeting, there really was no set agenda or agenda items. It was basically sit down and just start talking to each other.
Well, some people can see the glass of water half full, some can see it half empty. Some can see it's a positive, some of us say, you have to earn that trust. Especially the two board members, you haven't been on this board, you haven't even been at the meetings, you don't know how the community actually feels about this. But I want to go on to two other, I want to go on to two other questions,
Let's
please.
let him-
Yes, he still
let's
has
let
the
him-
floor.
Excuse me, said, let me run the meeting.
Well, no, but they
Bill.
jumped in and said how positive it all was. Well, that's their opinion, not necessarily mine or others. You did mention the shared resources, Denison Creek, San Vicente, and Mavericks. What were the details on that discussion?
There was no discussion of it. It was towards the end of the meeting, and that we just basically, I brought those up, but we never really talked about it.
He just mentioned them as a
Yeah.
possible
Okay.
discussion.
Okay.
The other one that was mentioned was a water pipeline running from CCWD to NCCWD, North Coast.
Yeah.
And there was a few comments about it. They said they weren't interested in that at this point.
Yeah, because that was pushed by a previous board member that went with a
They
resounding thud.
didn't jump on that. They didn't express an interest in that.
Okay. Okay, and the final comment I wanted to make was about the engineer and managers getting together for emergencies. A few things on that. First of all, it's something I do fully support, and I've actually talked to Clemens about this earlier. Being a member of the Coastside Emergency Action Program, I brought it up saying that you do need written procedures that are well practiced, so in case of emergency, people can respond in the chaos of an emergency, and I fully support that. I would also support that you define what those emergencies are. I don't think an emergency is one district's poor planning and thereby necessitating water necessarily being an emergency on this district's part, and I would drag my feet on something like that. As much as I believe in helping my neighbor, I don't believe in paying for their bad planning. And the other thing I'll say is, and I've said it before, I would have liked to known about the meeting. I would have gone. I've asked for this a dozen times from the board. I find it interesting, I'll talk to Bob later, how he was notified about it. I attend these meetings, never heard when the date of it was going to be. I knew it was coming up. And I really support the idea of a standing committee. I'm sorry, it's not just you. I do it with every district out here. You are servants to the public, and the public should know every last thing. And whether it's notes or whatever, I actually have been talking to state legislators about making sure these are all videotaped. So not only do we actually see everything that's going on, but we can also see the body language, because that speaks volumes. I think action minutes or just minutes are a poor example or representation of what takes place in these meetings. As far as a published agenda ahead of time, again, I think it's really great when you want to meet with your friends and you don't have a set agenda, but you're a business. And if you're going to get together, I have done this throughout my career for multiple companies in the Valley. You set an objective, you have an agenda, and you stick to the plan. And to say, oh, we're just going to get together and hash the BS, that's not acceptable for a public office. That's my final comment.
Okay, thank you, Bill. So our understanding is that the upcoming meetings will be agendized, that they will be, that the agenda will be published and the meetings will be noticed. In particular, members of the public who have expressed a direct interest should be contacted if possible. That minutes be taken, and that those be available in the board packet.
Hold on. So, Bob, who did you hear about the meeting from?
You and I had a chance bumping into each other the day before, and you happened to mention it. That's the only way.
Okay.
So Bob had a higher degree of busybodiness than
And
It
the
was a
luck
chance
of the
meeting.
bone.
It was in front of your U-Haul.
Oh, the U-Haul meeting.
So you lived in a U-Haul now?
he's got the U-Haul advantage going for him.
With with a
The-
standing committee, one of the first orders of business should be to establish a regular meeting.
So we're not at that point yet to see how the next few meetings go and see if that's what we as a board actually want. So ad hoc for now, but behaving as a standing committee in terms of all of the public notice and
So you just said that we're going to act as a standing committee?
that going to
Notify.
meet all of the obligations of a standing committee under the Brown Act and the Public Meetings Act, or I guess that is the Public Meetings Act. So agendized, public notice, minutes, and then those minutes in our board packet.
Okay.
One last comment from Sid,
Yeah, it
short
was a
one?
question I forgot to ask when I was up there, and that is, could you define what you guys think constitutes an emergency? Because in my mind, it would be like a conflagration up there in El Granado with all the ukes, or a big forest fire or something, and maybe an earthquake or a drought, but what other types of emergencies?
Okay, Clements?
Well, we have some descriptions about that in the agreement. When this was drafted, it was,
The existing agreement.
Yeah.
yes, in the existing emergency agreement, so there are some. I don't
So,
have it in front of me, but there's.
so this the kind of things include
some
like
information.
if their big pipeline breaks, or are we talking about things like that?
I think there are more general descriptions. Do you have this in front of you, Bill?
Yeah. A water shortage emergency must be caused by either one, a sudden unanticipated lack of water supply due to causes beyond the requesters, defined in paragraph 3, reasonable control, or 2, damage to the water system facilities as a result of a force majeure,
Force majeure.
defined in paragraph 15.
So
And
big things break, and it's
Yeah, that says, that accounts for lack of work planning, I got you. I understand that.
You know, Bob, correct me if I'm wrong, but this committee, the last couple of years, this committee has worked on the emergency agreement.
Well, we started with that, and once we were done, we attempted to set an agenda of other things we could work on together so that the mutual benefit of both. We had a hell of a time scheduling meetings with the 4 board members and the 2 managers. We weren't doing it on a monthly basis. We were trying to meet every 2 or 3 months. And it could sometimes take 3 months to schedule a meeting because of the agendas and out of towns and all of that.
so
But we've been working on what's the next thing to do. And I'm actually going to confess that I was surprised during the committee meeting. The engineering report and all of that, I understand, wasn't there. But I could have sworn to God a couple of years ago, that was one of the things that we had put together, as sort of a step-by-step,
right.
what the managers put together of, step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I was kind of surprised that at the meeting that we were gonna work on that, because I could have sworn we already had that done.
So does the committee have a plan for the next meeting? Time penciled in,
No.
calendar date?
No, we have no plans.
A time frame,
Like 2
perhaps?
months.
Okay, so when you get an idea, give us all, send up a smoke signal and give us a heads up. And thank you for your work in doing this. And it sounds like we're off to a productive start again, and we'll continue to get some things done with these guys. Let's move on to item 5, review and possible action concerning nomination of representative on the CSDA Board of Directors.
So, the California Special Districts Association is conducting a call for nominations for the CDC for the 2015-17 term. Our district is part of Region 3, which includes the Greater Bay Area. And board member is expected to attend all board meetings, usually 8 per year, but is reimbursed for travel by the California Special Districts Association. Any independent special district with current membership in CSDA is eligible to designate one person, such as a board member or managerial employee, for election as director of CSDA. A copy of the district's resolution or minute action must accompany the nomination form. And the deadline for receiving nominations is May 23rd. Mail ballots will be sent out on June 6th. We'll come back to the board and ask for authorization to essentially mail the ballot back. The ballots must be received by CSDA on August 1st, and successful candidates will be notified before August 5th. In the past, Director Slater Carter has expressed interest in serving on the CSDA board, and that's why we prepared an according resolution. And any director serving on this board is eligible to serve on the CSDA board. So I'm going to leave this up, but for this case, we prepared a resolution with Catherine's name in it. So the recommendation would be to discuss if this is really desired from Catherine or anyone else. And if that is true, then adopt the resolution of the Montara Water and Sanitary District authorizing the nomination of Catherine Slater Carter as Region 3 representative to the CSDA Board of Directors.
I'd like to adopt that resolution.
Well,
Let me
first, are you
comment
interested in it, Catherine?
My schedule is pretty crazy for the next while. And Stanley Caldwell has been doing a fabulous job. And I think it's indicated he's going to run again. Let me get in touch with him and double check with that. If he's not going to run, then I would love to. But if he is going to, he has really put a lot of time and effort and work into this, and he really, the CSDA has come a long ways in the years that I've been involved with it, and they're just doing a much better job of reaching out to special districts and meeting the needs of special districts.
Let me ask a question. I'm looking at the map. San Mateo County appears to be in Region 5. Is that just a map error?
What page are you on?
This is, it's not numbered. It's the one with the state of California map, so.
You know, we...
It's right near the back.
I do know
All
what
the way near
California
the
looks like.
Well, yeah, I'm sorry.
Now,
Is that a trick question? That's what I think
we're
that
in
was.
Region
Cemetery
3.
County, it's around here somewhere.
We are in Region 3. It is a map error.
Okay, well, I
Says-
figured since you know Stanley, it's fine. So it sounds to me like you're suggesting that we table this item and
Please.
we bring it back if you request it.
Yeah.
Well, the other option is that we adopt the resolution now and then staff withholds sending the resolution.
Okay, let's just do that.
That sounds cleaner. So Jim has made a motion adopting the next resolution in order. Do I have a second?
Sure, I'll second it.
Okay. Thank you. So we have a motion and a second. Sorry, give me a second here. Jim and Bill. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Well,
Oh, you do have discussion. Okay, that's fine.
Just, I'm assuming that if so elected, that when something comes in front of the CSDA, you would inform us about it.
Oh, absolutely, and I have been, and we get regular updates from the CSDA emailed to us
Yeah.
about the important stuff that's going on legislatively in Sacramento.
Yeah.
When do we get that? Because I have yet to see one.
Your mailbox is right here, I
But
believe.
you said by email.
Oh, by
It
email.
should- I don't know, I suppose.
Let's make sure. Let's
You
make
have
sure
to
that we've got everybody
signed up.
registered.
Yeah, I assumed everyone had gotten them, but you can just be
Thanks for
signed up.
mentioning that.
You might want to go to the, get our
Could you grab one
passcode,
of the CSDA things out of that mailbox?
Well,
get our password and sign in from Clemens for the
Oh, that's
CSDA website.
so you're going into the webpage through essentially, I'm not quite sure if this is actually a group membership or if it's an individual membership. But
You know, I have no idea. I signed up for getting their newsletter and,
Yeah,
because
that's
I'm
surprising.
and getting alerts.
Another?
It's Aqua. Okay.
That's
well,
all right. That's
Okay, you
not
want
my
Aqua?
words.
Aqua do?
Yeah.
But it gets down to the basic issues.
Sorry.
As a general question,
Thanks.
Clemens, is, I just have to go back to my school board days. Within 3 weeks of being on the school board, I got more mail I knew what to do with. So in here, there's been it's been just the opposite. So I'm assuming at some point there's some kind of communication to the various.
Your mail's right here.
Yeah,
And we don't buy much in the way of curriculum, so we get worked a lot less for
Yeah.
a lot of that. I guess I could pick up the mail too, but any electronic
mostly-
communication would be great to, if there is.
So let's try to go through and see if there's anything that we need to do to make sure you guys are signed up. And just I'll vouch, we've had very regular reports from Catherine.
Oh, I'm not criticizing.
Oh, no, I'm just so you know, that's something to expect, and there'll be those meetings where we're like, we really want to finish, and, you know, okay.
No, but I think
That's the way it is with all our
The
reports.
important thing is you can also give us the sort of the between the lines, the nuance of things.
Yeah. Okay. So, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item 6, review and possible action concerning cancellation of next regular scheduled meeting, March 20th, 2014.
So I have a phone notice. I am not here the first week in April. I have a work conference that I need to go to, so if that has any impact on the meeting schedules for you guys, just in full disclosure.
Okay, first week in April, and I have to, we're gonna submit a report, of course, with that, but I'm actually not gonna be in the country at the end of April and beginning of May. So, and I think Dave, you're actually out
Yes, actually, that's the end of May.
the end of May.
So I'll have somebody gone at every meeting for the next few. How are you feeling about having the March 20 meeting?
I recommend holding the March 20 meeting.
Okay.
Quite frankly, this is a standard item. We would appreciate to have the flexibility to be able to cancel it if there's nothing, but at this time, I think we really have to hold the March 20 meeting.
Okay, so let's go
And
to...
that way we can hopefully get the business taken care of that we need to, well, actually, because the second meeting in April and potential first meeting in May might not happen. We might have a first meeting in April without you, Glenn.
That's the way it goes.
Okay, so that we are going to have the March 20th meeting.
Yes,
as it looks
that's
now.
what I
Yeah.
anticipate.
Okay.
We ask for the flexibility to be able to cancel anyways, but
Okay,
put it on your calendars, please.
all right.
Okay.
Sewer Authority Mid-Coastside
Yeah,
report.
we had a meeting February 24th, and we talked about a couple of things. Well, one thing we talked about, the temporary general manager gave a report on capital replacement planning activities for the intertie and for the pump stations, and she gave a report on what needs to be done, and basically it was kind of, when you boil it down, it was a request for more studies to be done on what needs to be done, and we discussed that. We had a little discussion about that.
In fact, she was asking for a repeat of studies that are still valid.
Right, so the board questioned about that, whether the studies have already been done. We need to have things done and not studied at this point, so we had, that was...
Characterize that as a lively discussion.
It was a lively discussion. And then we had a discussion, we had a report on general engineering services expenditures as compared to budgeted, and that was also a lively discussion. There's some engineering projects that haven't been completed. We authorized March 17th, which is this kind of a Monday, a week from this coming Monday, as a date for SAM Board Budget Workshop. We discussed recycled water, and we reviewed, Scott and I reviewed the history of recycled water in SAM and what had been done in the past, and we tried to update our fellow board members on how far SAM had progressed 2 years ago. And it was agreed that recycling should be revisited. So it ended up being more of an educational meeting for a couple of the other board members. That's it.
Yeah, I'd like to mention, thanks, I got mine.
Okay.
I'd like to mention that We know that it's always disruptive when we lose a manager at SAM. We've been through it a few times now, and it's always a bit disruptive, but we took the opportunity in discussing the capital to remind the interim that we have a number of things that were planned, budgeted, funded that have not been in motion since the interim came in. So we front-burnered some of those items, highlighted those, and reminded that some of the broader sweeping planning stuff is nowhere near as important as replacing the remaining air vac valves that can, you see how excited Clemens gets about 12 months of no spills. When you have corroded, failing air vac valves, that's a spill or 2 or 3 waiting to happen. And what highlighted the need for that just a few years ago was a failing air vac valve on the IPS down here on Valmar Street. And that led to quite a bit of good engineering work, phased plan for getting things replaced. We've replaced a good chunk, but we still have quite a few to replace, and then we were very disappointed to find out that progress had completely stopped on those. So it was a lively discussion because we were turning attention to the matters at hand, not the broader pie in the sky plans, because we have business to attend to. So because of a lot of thinking on that, we have a lot of material now, both with that and on the recycled water issue, to hand to our incoming new general manager, and we'll front load the intro. So there's a lot of readily available material and fresh remembrance of which things that we have right on the front burner. So it's actually very good to get down into, making sure that we didn't have too much continuity gap in this transition. So it puts us in a better position to be prepared for Rob to come in. On the recycled water stuff, if you're ever interested, I've got about a foot of documents that I brought. I've got more, but that's what I brought to the meeting. And
Foot thick.
yeah, about this much.
Yeah, they're only going to have by 11 inches tall.
I had to wheel it
so a
in.
foot tall with.
Big chunks of it are on the website.
tall.
But
You're right. it's a
anytime
foot thick.
you'd like, I'd be happy to sit down with you and talk about some of the things that we did accomplish in that process, some of the things that we identified as obstacles that need to be overcome, what some of the most ready opportunities are. I will note that I believe it's the managing partner at Ocean Colony Partners has recently expressed interest in getting things, looking at things again. And I'll tell you that the most likely and interesting and fiscally available, feasible project would be to get something into the pipeline that Ocean Colony Partners has at wells directly across Pilocitos Creek from the sewer authority Midcoast side of the plant. So if we can get a package treatment facility there, something along the lines of what we had before for the pilot, and find a way to get that to his pumps, he can get it all the rest of the way, which is getting a distribution system, pumps, having someone who's willing to fund the pumping. That's usually like the really hard part. So the economic situation, which took such a downturn when we had our proposals in Anna Issue's office, we had all sorts of support. We had a really good plan. But honestly, the bottom fell out of the economy, and just wasn't the time. So things are getting better, and now's a good time to restart these talks. And with the new manager coming in, let's see what we can do this time. Very hopeful. Sorry, I got on one of my favorite topics there. Midcoast Community Council.
The big news is you heard about Seal Cove roads, but the backstory, we heard more from Pippin than the public has been told. And that they wanted to do it last year, and they may not be doing, and they're presenting it that they're doing it this year, but it may not happen because the engineering isn't there, so.
The
I don't know.
county.
The county.
Okay, so that road is which road?
San Ramon.
Okay, and San Ramon is the one that Sid lives on?
No, it's the one falling in, no, that's Ocean something or other that's falling in.
Ocean Boulevard had to be closed down. at least a section of it.
Yeah,
Kind of closed itself down there.
yeah.
Well, has
Yeah.
fallen in.
And that's why they're looking at an alternate route, and it's actually,
Oh, so-
if you think about it, one in, but that's it's almost an incorrect description because that's only,
Is
it's
that
one
one
in
where
for
Judy
the southern
Macias lives?
portion. Excuse me, what?
Where Judy Macias lives?
Don't know.
No, I don't think
No,
so.
that's too far.
Yeah,
Just save it.
Okay, I'll look
The
it
road
up.
where
I'll look it
Elizabeth
up.
Hawkins
Yeah.
lives.
okay. She has been to many of our meetings.
That's it. That's it. So that's Mid-Coast Council as far as I know.
Okay.
I did ask if this was a change in county policy and if they were going to be fixing other roads. I may go to the meeting because my concern is about Alta Vista, since it's a road that is of vital importance to the community, given that we have water production and storage facilities at the top of it, and a large portion of Alta Vista, or a significant portion of Alta Vista, is entirely on private property. It's not on the designated right-of-way.
The Alta Vista Road is a county road, but it's privately maintained.
But a portion of it is on private property. It was not constructed
That's
with a
correct.
surveyor.
That's correct. The residents have formed a group that has been interested in paving the road, and I was in contact with the group, and they actually planned to do the paving very soon, and I've been talking to them and hopefully achieved that the paving of the road will be postponed until after the district constructed the tank. So I would say I have very good communication with them going, and I'll let you know if that
That's
doesn't
good,
work.
because I'm concerned about the portion of it that's on private property. It,
We have mitigation responsibilities with respect to the new tank up there.
right. And I realize we have an agreement, and in our permits and so on, it's to leave the road in as good a condition as we find it. But if the county were going to change its policies and be doing some repaving, that's one that I would be aiming for them to work on. Because among other reasons, it's part of the source of the flooding down lower. But I was told that the county has not changed its policy, that Supervisor Horsley had found $400,000 to be able to work on San Ramon. So,
So the road Silk Cove that they're planning to pave, you said that's San Ramon?
Yes, and there's a dirt section of
That is the road.
Yeah.
That's the one all the way at the easternmost portion of Upper Silk Cove.
Yeah.
Okay. That's an interesting choice. All right.
well, because Ocean Boulevard was the one people went up and then fed off of
Well,
on the
if
front.
you're gonna-
There's a road between
if you're
Ocean
thinking,
and San Ramon.
Civil engineering,
I don't know what it
you
is.
pave the one that's going to be the last to fall in, which is the one furthest away.
Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
the drone.
Yeah, so,
No, I think the drone is.
so Ocean,
Okay, I'll look. it up.
Ocean, Dakota, Del Mar, San Ramon.
Good.
All right.
We should have.
Okay, CSDA report, Rick was elected alternate, Cosgrove was elected main representative to LAFCO. Rick is going to be attending all
This
the,
is Rick Loman.
Rick Lohman is going to be, thank you, Rick Lohman is going to be attending all of the LAFCO meetings, because there is some thought that Joe Sherman may be resigning from his position or not getting reelected. So what was interesting about the meeting was that Menlo Park Fire showed up, and they brought a fellow Rex, someone or other that they ran both against Josh Cosgrove and against Rick Lohman. So it was an interesting meeting.
Okay. CCWAD committee, thank you for your report. Attorney's report,
Any reports?
director's reports. General Manager's report.
Nothing at this time.
Future agendas,
Yes.
hearing no objection. we
Wait,
are-
a future agenda item.
That's an objection.
I would
You
like,
Say that now.
I would like to find out, I would like to have a report on what the cost to Sam has been for the change in general managers, what Vivian has cost us, and the search costs for the new general manager, and all of those.
Okay, search cost, I can just tell you off the top of my head, I believe it was something like 16,000, it was fixed.
Yeah, 16.
And then we can go through and look at the checks cut to Housen and Associates.
Yeah, I
to
don't know,
what that
I looked
cost.
at that once, it's a little bit higher than what it was would have been for Steve, but we'll look at specifics.
I would, I would like a real report, because she's part-time.
Right,
Yeah.
we can look at that.
Definitely,
Okay.
far few hours than Steve was putting in.
Oh, you want that as an agenda item?
I would like that as an agenda.
Oh,
item.
okay, okay.
All right, hearing no further objections, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Last time we were here at midnight, wasn't it?
This,
Pretty close.
do not do this. Do, just quick.